Hello everybody. So we shall continue with the terms that are used in genetics. So the next term that we are using is the phenotype. So phenotype is the external appearance Phenotype is the external appearance of organisms. So external appearance means tallness. So one example for external appearance for phenotype is tallness. Right? So the tall stem is a phenotype. Similarly, round shape of seeds is another example of phenotype. Then axial position of flowers is another example of phenotype. So here phenotype means the external appearance, right? Or external feature. The next we shall consider genotype. So genotype is the genetic constitution of an organism. So genetic constitution, it means the genes, right? Genes present in an organism. It is called genetic constitution, which is called as genotype. Now here, genotype controls the phenotype of an organism. Means genes control the characters in organisms. So we shall consider some examples of genotypes. Now for example, this is one genotype, right, of pea plant. So these are the pair of genes which forms the genotype or genetic constitution of a pea plant. Then what phenotype it controls? So this is the genotype. So what phenotype it controls? So it controls tallness, right? Similarly, so this is another genotype in pea plants. So this genotype controls which phenotype? So here it controls dwarfness, right? So these are few examples of genotypes in pea plants which control the phenotypes, right? The next we will consider the hybrid. So hybrid is the heterozygous offspring. Hybrid is the heterozygous offspring that is produced So that is the definition of a hybrid. So hybrid is a heterozygous offspring produced by crossing two homozygous pea plants having contrasting characters. So hybrids are always heterozygous because they are produced by crossing two homozygous pea plants having contrasting characters. So I will explain this to you by taking one example. So I will make a cross between two pea plants. Okay. So this is one pea plant, this is another pea plant. So this one we can call it as male and this one as female. Now here, this pea plant is homozygous because it is having a pair of similar genes, right? This pea plant is also homozygous because it is also having a pair of similar genes. So this we can call it as the genotype of the pea plant. Even this is the genotype of a parent pea plant. What should be the phenotype here? So phenotype of this will be tall. The phenotype of this will be dwarf, right? So these are, so here you can call it as P, that is parental generation. So these are the two parent pea plants, right? Both are homozygous. So two homozygous pea plants having contrasting characters means one is tall, another one is dwarf. So tall and dwarf, they indicate contrasting characters. So when we cross these two homozygous pea plants having contrasting characters, what we get? Right? So these are the gametes. So this parent pea plant produces gametes which have dominant gene capital T. This homozygous parent pea plant also produces gamete. All gametes have a recessive gene small t. So here gametes are fused. Right? What is the fusion of gametes called? So the fusion of gametes is called fertilization. So here fertilization takes place. Both gametes fuse and we obtain the offspring. Right? So now we get something like this. This dominant, this recessive, they come together. So you find a pair of genes, right, in the offspring. So this offspring, we can call it as F1. Right? The meaning of F1 I will tell you in the coming part. So this is the offspring which is obtained here, right, by crossing two homozygous pea plants. Now see the genotype here, genotype of the offspring. Now what is the genotype here? Capital T, small t. That means it exhibits heterozygous condition. So this offspring is heterozygous. This offspring is heterozygous, whereas the parent plants, they are homozygous. Right? Both parent plants are homozygous. Offspring is heterozygous. So such heterozygous offsprings, they can be called as hybrids. Right? So this is how hybrid plants are produced. Right? So you may expect a question, how hybrid plants are produced? So hybrid plants are produced, or hybrid offsprings are produced by crossing two homozygous parent plants having contrasting characters. So you may expect a question, what is a hybrid? Right? Or you may expect a question, what is phenotype or what is genotype? The next term that we commonly use in genetics, it is gene, right? So gene, it is the gene is the unit of inheritance, right? Located on chromosome. Right? So gene is the unit of inheritance located on chromosome. So genes, they are found on the chromosomes. Right? Why it is called unit of inheritance? Now already we have discussed the meaning of inheritance. Right? So why gene is called unit of inheritance? It is because genes are involved in inheritance, or genes are involved in heredity, right? So genes help to pass characters from parents to offsprings. So characters are passed from one generation to another generation through genes. That's why gene is called unit of inheritance. Means genes are involved in inheritance or heredity. So you may expect a question, what is a gene? Or name the unit of inheritance. So you have to write this. So next we shall consider the F1 generation. So commonly we use it, right? F1 generation. So F1 generation is the first generation. Right? F1 generation is the first generation that is produced by crossing parent plants or parent organisms. So when parent organisms are crossed, you get the first generation, and that first generation is called F1 generation or first filial generation. Right? Then F2 generation. So F2 generation or second filial generation is the generation obtained by crossing F1 individuals. So when F1 individuals are crossed, right, when F1 plants are crossed, you get a second generation that is called F2 generation, right? So we are commonly using F1 and F2 generations while doing genetic crosses. The next is the Punnett square, also called as the checker board. So Punnett squares, again they are very commonly used in genetic process, right? So here it is called Punnett square because it was discovered by R.C. Punnett. Right? So what is this Punnett square? So Punnett square is the graphical representation . Punnett square is the graphical representation to calculate So that is the meaning of a Punnett square or a checkerboard. So it is the graphical representation to calculate the probability of all possible genotypes of offsprings in a genetic cross. Right? So with the help of this Punnett square, we can easily obtain the possible genotypes of offsprings when we do a genetic cross. So this Punnett square it is something like this, right? So on the Punnett square, on one side, that is horizontally, we represent the male gametes, and vertically we represent the female gametes, right? So male gametes are written horizontally, female gametes are written vertically on one side of the Punnett square, right? So imagine we are fusing two male gametes with two female gametes, right? So 2 into 2, so 2 male gametes and 2 female gametes. So 2 male and 2 female gametes, when they are fused, what is the number of offsprings that we obtain, right? So it is 2 into 2, 4. You will get 4 offsprings. So that's why in the Punnett square we are making 4 small boxes, right? So when you fuse 2 male gametes with 2 female gametes, you will get 4 offsprings for 4 genotypes. To write that, in the Punnett square we are making 4 boxes, right? And so these boxes are to represent the genotypes of offsprings, right? Made or okay, so obtained in a genetic cross. So this type of square is called Punnett square, right? So we shall summarize this in brief. So in this video, right, we have discussed different aspects such as the phenotype, which is called the external appearance of organisms. Then we have discussed genotype, which is the genetic constitution of organisms, right? Then we have discussed the concept of hybrid, right? So hybrid, which is a heterozygous offspring that is obtained by crossing homozygous plants or homozygous parents having contrasting characters, right? So after that we discussed the first filial generation or filial 1 progeny, commonly called as F1, and then the F2 generation, that is second filial generation. So first generation, that is F1, is obtained by crossing parent plants. The F2 generation is obtained by crossing the F1 plants, right? Then next we have discussed the Punnett square, which was discovered by R.C. Punnett. So Punnett square is the graphical representation, right? We are graphically representing, right? So it is the graphical representation to calculate the probability of all possible genotypes of the offsprings in a genetic cross, right? So in the coming video we shall see the applications of Punnett square, how we can use Punnett square in the genetic crosses. So I hope this video was very much clear to you, right? So with this we shall conclude this video and meet in the next video. Thank you.